that's nonsense, but you will agree to it.
It's not nonsense, Peter.
No,
it's not nonsense. It makes perfect sense.
No, I said I think it's nonsense. So you can.
Do you think it's an illegitimate thing from a scientific perspective, Peter, to see whether scientifically one can establish whether intelligence needs to be involved?
This video is going to be very interesting. A lot of things to learn from both of them, and this video has some serious arguments that I will unpack at the end. And you will also notice that how pure philosopher Atkins is. When the debate got philosophical, he had no idea how to respond except that loud laugh. Let's dive in.
Scientists are not short of ideas and are doing experiments on the emergence of self-replicating molecules. We're not going to rush in and say, oh, this question is too big for for a human mind to understand. It must be God who flipped us from the inorganic into the organic. Scientists will say, let's do a whole series of experiments. Let's really see, replicating the environment that existed all those billions of years ago, to see whether under those circumstances, without intelligent intervention, self-replicating molecules can emerge. And if they can, then we get elements. And then if we get elements, if they can, we get elephants, just as you read out a moment ago.
Do you think it's an illegitimate thing from a scientific perspective, Peter, to see whether scientifically one can establish whether intelligence needs to be involved in the origin of life?
I think the scientific method is Occam, again, to see whether you can account for everything that is reliably known without elaborating the hypothesis. And so let's just take the laws of nature, and if you want to talk about those, we will. Let's just take the laws of nature as available, and seeing that, letting them run free in the environment that we can speculate existed. We've got evidence for the type of environment that existed billions of years ago. Seeing whether that sort of process leads to life. And if it does, that seems to me to abnegate the need for the imposition of intelligence.
And if it doesn't?
Then if we go on trying, we may have to try for 100 years. And if we, in the end, come to the conclusion that that an external intelligence must have done it, then we will have to accept that.
Would you be prepared to accept that?
No, because I think that...
I thought you said we'd have to.
Yeah, but I'm going to...
So your atheism doesn't depend on your science then?
Oh, it does. But it also, I think it would show, if we had to impose intelligence at some point, it would show that we run up against a wall of having insufficient intelligence to...
But why should it, Peter? What would be the difference in me lifting up your book and saying that implies that whatever physical processes are behind this book, there's an intelligence behind it?
Because it's lazy, and it's a false analogy. It's a false analogy.
It's not lazy. Well, how is it a false analogy?
Well, it's both lazy and a false analogy.
It's the only explanation that makes sense of this book.
Of a book, I agree.
Yes, it's not lazy.
No, but you're talking about a book. And then
I'm thinking of DNA.
Yeah, that's
well, where's the falsity of the analogy? The DNA is a longer word than Peter Atkins.
Yeah, but I didn't put a lot of words into a bucket, stir them round, and hope that they'd fall. And so,
exactly.
But I did, in times past, put a lot of amino acids, a lot of phosphates, a lot of nitrogen compounds and so on, and stir them all around. And because of the power of natural selection, there emerged DNA.
I don't understand this. When atheists are really good at something, why they loathe it and turn it over to physics, as if they are physics in the meat machines. And I found this profoundly dehumanizing, to believe that there is nothing inside and it is just physics running the show.
But natural selection doesn't work until you've got the replicating thing.
Yeah, but it needed to be DNA initially. I would say RNA, there's the RNA world that preceded DNA, and RNA is a very much simpler molecule. So we're working back. See, theologians rush in where scientists hesitate to tread. And
I haven't noticed any hesitation of the scientists rushing in.
You rush in with an explanation, which is that there's a God who did it. I say.
But I'm not saying that's an exhaustive explanation. Nor am I saying it's a scientific explanation. What I'm saying is the whole study, the mathematics, what we've discovered points towards a mind. Let's get on with elaborating, elucidating the mechanisms. My belief in God doesn't stop that going on at all. You're claiming that it ought to or it should. It makes it more fascinating, not less fascinating.
Well, what can I say? You want to say something?
No, I was just going to move us on to the next.
But Atkins gets it wrong. When we see design in the universe, fine-tuning, and we see complexity in DNA, we see that there must be intelligent designer behind all this, because this is the only explanation that makes sense. We can say that some intelligent designer created information, but we have no proof at all that some blind natural processes give rise to information. This is not an exhaustive explanation at all, because when we involve God in this, that does not prevent us from exploring more and more. And this is not even a God of the gaps argument, as Jhon Lenox says that God is not God of the gaps. He's the God of the whole show. And when we ask atheists what is the logical explanation to of the design and the fine-tuning and the information mechanisms in our cell, they say, well, we don't know, and science will come out with explanation someday. And I see this intellectual dishonesty. Rather to face reality, you believe that some future knowledge is going to explain this all. This is just a pure naturalism of the gaps argument.